Guys all good? Everyone good to go? Ellie, good to go? Yep.
Is the city attorney here?
Oh,
He's coming.
Do we need him?
I think legally we do. There's nothing on there for him in the first top part of the agenda.
I mean, if y'all don't need him, I
We
just
don't need
wondered
him.
if he needed to be
Well, we
here.
don't really need him until we start with legislation. Well, he can read the items.
I've got some real glasses.
I like him.
It's hard for me to get used to it because I'm like, usually I got those broken dollar store ones or I have to borrow Sheila's.
I don't think you want to wear hers. You did? Readers? I do too. Everybody has readers. We have old eyes. Have some too if you need some. Emergency readers. Huh? Oh, wonderful. Good. I always knew he was going to do a great job.
So when we say this down here,
I put their names in it because these things are going to September the 10th.
will I stop here for discussion on this?
You need a second at that point.
So
Oh, and now you know what? I put all that stuff and I didn't put Esper's. I would entertain a motion to blank, 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 blank. Oh, I took out the sentence. Is there a second? I'm sorry, I added in stuff and took stuff out. And at second is discussion. I'm sorry.
are we doing good?
I'm here.
The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, July 23rd, 2018 will be called to order at 7:03. At this time, would everyone willing and able please stand for the invocation given by Alderman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Tonight I would like to just express our sadness to a firefighter who died this morning, Nathan Flynn of the Howard County Fire Department. He was the first firefighter, it was the first firefighter fatality in Howard County's history. He was a 13-year veteran of the department. He was battling former Howard County Council candidate Janet Siddiqui. Our thoughts and prayers go to Nathan Flynn's family, friends, and colleagues. I ask you to keep your thoughts and prayers as we invoke the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderwoman Pernell Charles?
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Present.
Alderwoman Henson?
Present.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to remove R-28-18, Office of Community Development and Violence Prevention on first reader, R-40-18, City Co-Sponsored Benefit Concert Special Event on second reader, O-28-18, Arts and Entertainment District Tax Credit, O-14-18, Development Review Process Amendment, and City Council citation, Pinckney West Street Liquors Milestone Anniversary. And we are postponing
You're postponing 028 and 014 until the September, and the Pinckney citation until September 10th.
postponing those until September 10th, 2018.
Is there a motion?
So
you
moved.
had discussion.
Point of clarification, could you go over, did I hear you say remove? What were the resolutions that you, that someone asked to be removed?
R-28-18.
R-28, the Saline Hall of Fame? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, no,
That's
no.
38. 38. Okay, thank you. That's what I didn't hear.
Yes, sir. Yes, not. Can we repeat?
Yep, sure.
Is there agenda left?
R-28-18. Office of Community Development and Violence Prevention on first reader. R-40-18, City Co-Sponsored Benefit Concert Special Event on second reader, and to postpone. O-28-18, Arts and Entertainment District Tax Credit, and O-14-18, Development Review Process Amendment, and City Council citation, Pinky's West Street Liquor Milestone Anniversary, until September 10th, 2018 City Council meeting.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Can I move that we adjourn?
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
discussion?
to consult with my colleagues. There was a discussion earlier today about not having the information, not being able to find the information on O-4818. Ashley Leonard did send it to us, and I think it's beautiful. So I'm not sure what the other members of the committee feel, but I don't think we do need to. That would be you, Mark, and Sheila.
Excuse me, for clarification, 048 is not on the agenda.
No, O-2818
Okay.
is on for second reader. Right.
Well, may we ask why it's being removed from the agenda? if we have all the information we needed.
Well, it was because of me, because I couldn't find it, so I did find it.
Okay.
Ashley sent it to me again, so I would prefer that it not be removed from the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
So I'll read them again. Okay. R-2818, Office of Community Development and Violence Prevention on first reader. R-4018, City Co-sponsored benefit concert special event on second reader and to postpone. O-1418, Development Review Process Amendment. And City Council citation, Pinky West Street Liquor Milestone Anniversary until September 10th, 2018 City Council meeting. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
The moment.
You have a second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
God, we can't even do
Ayes
the
have it,
agenda.
all right, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ceremonial items, beginning with presentation to the City of Annapolis by ESRI Special Achievement in GIS Award.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter.
Richard Ledbetter.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for having me here. Esri is a world-class GIS provider, Geographic Information System software. We just recently had a user conference with 18,000 professionals and elected officials, where we gathered, and one of the items of business is recognizing achievement. City of Annapolis was recognized for their BedFinder application. 174 other recipients of this award out of 300,000 possible candidates. So I want to recognize the city for their effort in the bed finding application, and I would like to have the team stand up who created this application, saw the need, and created this application. In my job is both domestic and international, and I see quite a lot of candidates in my purview of this award. And I have to admit, this application initially struck me as light, as easy, as something I just quickly tossed away. But in going through the file, I realized it was the only application that solved something real, that solved a very human problem. And that's finding treatment at the right time, in the right place. 4 years ago, I was invited by the National Association of Counties. Association of Counties and the National Association of the National NLC League of Cities to participate in an opiate forum. It was 2 days of elected officials from cities and county governments talking about the growing problem of opiates. In 2 days, I observed that there wasn't any facts. There weren't data to be provided to these members. And so I've been working through ESRI to create applications that help articulate the problem with numbers. And I've seen a lot of applications that have helped, and this one solves the very human process of communication, of getting the information out when it's needed in a very simple and what I'll call elegant application that uses both a handheld platform and desktops, whichever the user provides. So with that, I'd like to present to the city, to the mayor, and to these members, Deputy Chief Kevin Simmons, Sean Wamper, and Mary Kate Hudson, who created this application, who saw the need and created the application, and I think is a very good showcase for the city. Yes. Since my initial identification of this application, I've had them participate at the ESRI Federal Conference, where over 5,000 people participated this past winter in an opiate session. They presented along with the CDC, CMS, which is Medicare, Medicaid, and HIDA, the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Authority. Their participation, their contribution to that panel was outstanding. They've since given webinars for the National League of Cities and, of course, presented at our conference just this past month. So with that, I'd like to present an award to the mayor in the city name for the substance use disorder bed finder application for the city. Oh. This is the award, and this is. And Deputy Chief? Thank you. Thank you very much. And then, Mayor Kate Hudson? And John Moore. It's my pleasure, Mayor. This is a noteworthy application. It has gotten national attention already. I hope to build more momentum in the state. It needs it, and as well as the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're very proud of you.
So when we had this project, I called Barbara and said, hey, look, I need one of your technical minds. And I know it was going to be tedious, it was going to be long term. I know that she's short-handed, but she willingly gave me all the assistance that I needed. That's why this project was a success. So, okay.
Thank you, Council.
Mr. Mayor, could you ask Deputy Simmons to give just a brief overview so that everyone will know exactly what the program does
Basically,
on a mic?
the program is support of safe stations. When folks come to safe stations, the crisis response team will have to make about, I don't know, a dozen calls to try to find a space for the person. And the best time to get a person help is when they're in the mindset to accept it. So what this bed finder does is on a computer, on a phone, on a laptop, it identifies open treatment centers on a map. It even gives you directions how to get there. So instead of phone calls, they can just go into the SUD treatment bed finder program and actually find treatment centers that they can send folks to. And that's the premise of the whole program.
I'd like to add that nationally, 9 out of 10 people seeking treatment like this, walking into a fire department, walking into a police station and saying, here's my drugs, I need treatment. Most states have programs that support them. 9 out of 10 people walk away because it's difficult and it's long. This application goes a long way in getting them treatment right then and there, finding the fastest way for an open bed without doing tree phone calls, finding where an open bed is it a male bed, is it a female bed, how close are you, can I walk there? All of these distractions just perpetuate the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with quarterly report from the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis.
Could members of the Housing Authority please come forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Attorney, and others, and people in the audience. I'm Beverly Wilborn. I'm the Executive Director of HACA, the Housing Authority for the City of Annapolis. I want to introduce who's here with me today. Starting on my right at the far is Jackie Wells. She's our Vice Chairman of the board and has been a long-term board member of HACA. Sitting next to her is Bridget McLaughlin. She is our new Director of Resident Services. Next is Eileen Neely. She's the CFO and Director of Administration. And then to my left is Francisco Castanelas. He's our new Director of Development and Facilities. And I bring all these folks because you typically hear just from me, but clearly it isn't a one-man band. And there are other leaders, some new, some having been there, who really are the folks doing the work. So as I prepare for these quarterly reports to you, I want to delve into a particular area. Like last time it was RAD and redevelopment, and so this time it really is going to look at our budget, and fitting, our fiscal year just began in July. We go from July 1st through June 30th, so we've just closed out a fiscal year, and then we've just put in a budget for a new fiscal year. And so I've asked the CFO, Eileen Neely, who has been with me since I began. I've been at HACA now for a little over a year. Eileen has been there just as long. She and I have worked together at other agencies. She is sort of top of the line. She's best in class for financing in housing in all issues, including public housing. She is an expert in all matters of affordable housing and redevelopment, things that we need right now, and in maximizing subsidy and what we can use it for and what we can't. And so I thought this was a good opportunity to have the bulk of the meeting really about the overview of the finances and answer any questions you may have on that. And then I wanted to introduce our new senior management team. And so I'll start by giving the mic over to Eileen and let her go through the presentation on the financial overview. Eileen.
Hi, thanks for having me. Like Beverly said, I'm Eileen Neely. So as we just finished the fiscal year, so I'm going to start by looking backwards before looking forward. So for the last year, we ended the year with $537,000 operating subsidy, which is quite a big turnaround from the prior year when we ended with a $92,000 deficit. So our revenues were higher, and that's because we really stepped up rent collection, and our expenses were lower because we put a lot of cost controls in, and then we also had a lot of vacancies with the turnover in leadership. So, but now that we've filled the vacancies, we really expect to be on budget for next year. But this operating surplus really sets us up nicely for next year. So on the next page, you can see where we were on our budget versus our actual. So we forecasted and we budgeted for a balanced budget, but because expenses were so much lower than we had budgeted for, we ended up with the surplus. So now let's look forward to next year. So in June, the board passed our budget for FY19, and it's a total of $12.5 million. And one of the things that might strike you, if you compare it to our total budget from fiscal year 2018, fiscal year 2018 was only a $6.6 million budget. Like, did we just increase by twofold in a matter of months? No. The previous budget had only focused on public housing and our central office, like our administration. This year, for the first time that I can find in HACA's history, we have a complete picture of every dollar that that agency will get in. And so in addition to the public housing that we've always focused on, it also includes the Housing Choice Voucher Program. It includes our capital funds, which can be used for the upkeep and modernization of the public housing and the redevelopment activities that are going on, as well as some smaller grants that we get from both HUD and the state for resident services. So that gives us the complete picture of the $12.5 million. Some of the really big things to notice is that our biggest chunks of money come from the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And these can only be used to pay landlords for, to subsidize our Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher participants. And that's about $4.5 million of our $12.5 million. And then the bulk of the rest of the budget is HUD operating subsidy. So this can only be used for public housing, and HUD capital funds, which can only be used for the upkeep of the public housing. So that is our picture of where we are.
So the one thing I would highlight is, for the first time in a very long time, the budget went up from HUD to public housing. And it went up in all of our areas. Not any striking amount. What was striking was that it wasn't continuing to go down. And we have been making adjustments to account for the increase and say, how should we really start to budget that? And one of the areas is in the capital funds. So some of those funds still haven't been allocated exactly how is the increased funding going to appear. So we still have some budgeting to do once HUD make all of its allocations to us. We're an odd agency in that, you know, our funds are appropriated and then HUD has to decide what does that really mean. And so we get our information over time. And so we're always somewhat projecting on the best information that we have at the time. So we may not have all the final figures. HUD makes adjustment as we go throughout the year. But for the first time, those adjustments are more up than down. So we're very pleased about that. And we're open to any questions on the budget or any questions that you might have on budgeting at HACM.
Alderwoman Henson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did, Ms. Wilborn, have the opportunity to discuss offline, if you will, the question I'm about to ask, but it's just for the benefit of the listening public and everyone who may want to know the status of it. The air conditioning in the public housing properties, not all of them were fitted with air conditioning. Some of them were since retrofitted. What's the status of all the units there?
So we had a grant. We had a series of grants allocated through the state Maryland Energy Fund, I believe is the name of it. And it's a competitive grant. It was really sought prior to my time by the Arundel County Community Development Service and ACDS. And they received a series of grants annually to retrofit public housing for energy efficiency. That included air conditioning was the one that everyone really kind of focused on, but it also included new energy efficient appliances, hoods and range, new hot water heaters. It was insulation. It was a series. It was a very robust retrofitting of public housing. We received, I believe, and I'm coming off the top of my head, it was $3.45 million over some 3 or 4 years. That funding, and so it got us through Eastport Harbor House. Blum has already been air conditioned. Eastport Harbor House was completed this last go round, but then it started at Robinwood. So the only development that we were not slating was Newtown, because Newtown is getting ready to be demolished, right? So Robinwood was our last public housing development that did not have air conditioning and all of the other energy efficient. So the whole idea is to just make the entire development more energy efficient. We were informed that when typically those grants were averaging about $700,000 per year, that this particular grant was going to be more closely to $200,000 per year. the net sum of all of that was that Robinwood, which has about 150 units, we have funding now to complete the retrofitting for 50 of those units. 100 we do not. It created a gap. So I have been looking at what are we going to do now that this gap has been created, and talking with HUD, and we have talked with the director of the Baltimore field office on ways in which we might work to try and fill that gap. And so she came down to visit with us, Carol Payne, when she met with the mayor, and so this sort of on the hit list that typically you do try and complete a task and not leave a part of the development not done. So we don't have a solution now, but we are actively looking for how to fill that gap, and it's probably a $500,000 or $600,000 gap.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Turney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, Beverly, that this seems to be very remarkable to go from I just want the public to know that to go from a deficit of 92,000 plus change to a surplus of over $500,000, and looking at the income from month to month, it as you say, it was the rents. Or I was curious. There was one big jump from May 18 to from April 2018 to May of over $100,000. What was that? Because keep it up.
Unfortunately, it's not.
Was it just a? Okay.
We do have partnerships with Penrose and Landex for Annapolis Gardens and Overy Court,
Mm-hmm.
and we share in some of the ongoing revenue from those. And so it happened that in May we got a share of the developer fee for Overy 3, which is the third phase of the Penrose project.
Yeah.
So that was that. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't on.
Oh.
So it wasn't, it was just a one-time share of our developer fee as we got to stabilization of that property.
Mm-hmm.
And that it continued in June because of the timing of some grants from HUD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those kind of movements that
Yeah.
are less predictable than rent collection and the operating subsidy from HUD.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, welcome, and welcome to your new team. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to meet your team. And you are to be congratulated on this report. We are all excited. Piggybacking on what Alderwoman Tierney just mentioned, when we went into the public-private partnership with Landex and Penrose, I don't recall whether our increase of the profits, let's say, will increase over time, or does it stay at the same level?
The forecast is not to have it increase over time.
Okay.
The early revenues are at the beginning with the, basically it's the profit from building the property. And then on an ongoing basis, we just share in excess cash flow, but these are still affordable housing properties, so there's not a lot of cash flow.
Okay,
So
that's,
again, we're watching their, watching their costs as well as ours. Just
Okay.
because we want our, HACA wants the share of the cash flow on
Absolutely.
those as well.
well, thank you. Ms. Wilborn, you mentioned that HUD has increased their funding to us, which is exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was that gave them the forecast to be able to do that?
Well, actually, I guess I can answer that one to punt, but okay, Ty was going to punt, but it was back at the appropriations bill that there was this big debate. I mean, the initial, the president's budget had zeroed out a lot of things, CDBG, no capital fund, no, just zero. And then there was just a competing budget that went through, and it really had an increase overall in housing and HUD spending, but a marked increase for public housing as well. And what I read in terms of the thought behind it was that there is no question public housing has been underfunded precipitously for decades, right? It's just kept going down. It was what made HUD have to find a different model of funding the real estate. I mean, that's really the bottom line. They were like, uh-oh, this just isn't gonna work, right? Because we just have to go and parse out whatever Congress gives us. And there was no way for real estate to absorb a constant decline. You have to put money back in. So we're transferring to a model, the project-based model, that says from the beginning, which, as Eileen is saying, from the beginning, you have to define what your costs are going to be. You have to show that your rent collections, your subsidies, your grants are going to cover your costs for the next 15 years, and you're going to be able to refinance and put some more money in 15 years after that, so that you never, ever, ever, ever are just sitting there with your house declining around you. And you don't have anything up your sleeve other than going back to HUD and said, have you noticed that my house is declining around me? So we understood that that's what the idea was. But part of that idea was there isn't really any more funding, but we need to at least transfer the model. Just don't have a model that says you just get whatever HUD gives you, because that's what we've been getting, whatever HUD gave us. What this upswing, from what I read, was a reflection of was that if we're going to sort of take the money that public housing has right now and turn it into a voucher, we really need to tip it up some, because we're going to freeze it too low. Bring it up some, because that's where we're still going. We're still going rad, but you need to get some money so that we can live. That is a major component of affordable housing in that nation, public housing around the nation. We need to strengthen it for a lifetime. That's what we're trying to do. So I will sort of jump ahead and say, because of that increase, we too have to look at everything that we were doing with the RAD and say, what does that do for us? And that's where we are too. It says, this is our one chance to make the strongest model work for all of our properties. We're negotiating right now with our mixed finance partners, Penrose and Landex, right? So we're arguing back and forth. Okay, you're going rad, but hey, you're doing okay right now. You don't deserve anything more. You just need to take the money you got right now and be glad that it's not going to get less. You know, and they're saying, well, you know, we need a little bit more here. So that's the negotiation, because now we're going to move to a model that is real estate based, that says, what's the cost every year? You know, what's the utilities? What's every cost that you have in real estate? What's the management cost? What's this? Do you have enough money to cover it year after year after year? That's where we're trying to get to, and that's a very different model than we have with public housing.
Oh, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but have we gotten a notification about the RAD program?
We haven't gotten the notification for Newtown. We haven't gotten the notification for LIHTC. So, you know, my rents are for my operations, but to get the capital to redevelop, I need the credits, the tax credits. And we put in an application. We also put in an application for demolition grant from the state, and certainly we'll be knocking on the city's door. We need, again, this is go get all your money lined up so that you know exactly what your profile is going to be for the foreseeable future, and that's how you have to fund it. So when you apply, you have to say, this is how much I expect this to cost to build, to run, and this is how I'm going to fund it. Very different from, I'm just going to go to HUD and say, would you please give me some more money? So we are expecting to hear back on the tax credits, I think, at the end of August, and we're very hopeful. We think that we had a very competitive application. Penrose believes we had a very competitive application for Newtown, so that's where we are with Newtown.
Praying for us.
I am too.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you. Mr. Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the information. This is very useful to see. I do have a question. Can you explain to me what the resident services are? Because I noticed in the FY18 budget, it was budgeted for $1 million, and that went down. The actual expense was only $431,000, and then the budgeted amount for FY19 is jumps back up a little bit to where is it? It looks like it jumps up to about 1.2 again million. So can you explain why that number has jumped around and what the services are for?
So I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I'm not sure what was in the FY 2018 budget. It was already approved by the time I got here. So I think what happened in that budget is they included, we have a ROSS program, which is a resident opportunity self-sufficiency, and a family self-sufficiency. So those are two separate programs that are funded by HUD. If I was to guess, and I really tried to ask the people who came before me what was in there, and I didn't get a great answer, and so I'm not giving you a great answer. Those have to be segregated into separate budgets per HUD, and if I was to guess, I think those were included in the public housing budget, and that would have been about $200,000 of the budget. The other is we had delays in hiring two very important people in the resident service budget, and one is Bridget McLaughlin, and the other one, who many of you have met, is Sheila Ford, who is our safety and security manager. Because of those delays, that accounted for some of the gap. But so it's a combination of sort of including things in the budget that shouldn't have been in the budget, and delays in hiring.
So let me add on to that a couple of things. One of the tasks that we faced when we first came to HACA, Eileen and I, Eileen in particular in terms of the budget, was to make sure that every line item was truly what it said it was, right? And that where did the money come from? Where did the money come from for real? You know, let's see the check. Let's see where you got that money. So we had to really just track it all down, not just in this instance, but throughout the budget. And we had to institute a routine of saying you have to book things where they actually belong, even if it looks like it's going to cause a deficit in that pot. You still have to actually say that's where the money is being spent for real, and that's where we then will know next time, this is really how much money I spent. Not how much money I got my hands on, but this is really how much money I spent right here for this thing, right?
I think we know the feeling.
It looked like it was some noise. Yeah, you got to really, no, that's okay. If it looks wrong, just tell me for real. How much did you spend? But here's my bigger take with resident services. It has to be as important as the real estate, right? And I get absolutely zero. This is just operating budget that I allocate to resident services. That is the crux of one of the biggest problems in public housing. We are funded, and it's very clear, for the bricks and mortar. We're funded for the bricks and mortar, and even then, underfunded, right? But we recognize that the community needs more. That's why it has been just a sea change, it really has, in working very closely now with the city and the administration and council members to say, hey, this is all I've got. This is where mine is going. I can bridge, but I need some wraparound services from the other folks getting some money, because my funding really is housing. I'm the housing authority of the city of Annapolis. I have to stretch it to get these other things going. And this is the challenge that we all face, but I think our job, the way I see our job is one, like I said, making sure we know exactly where all the money's going, then making a conscious decision that this amount we are going to allocate to the resident services. And in fact, we, for the first time, pulled it out and said, this is your money for resident services, right? And you have to do camp, and you have to do the safety and all the things that we would do in that regard. But we also now are going to actively partner and bridge with others. That's the role for Bridget. And I'm just so excited because we purposely said, you know, we're going to go outside the box a little and get someone that's more of a clinician who can really be in that life and can bring it back to us, right? Because we need that. But we can't set it up at HAC. A lot of times people say, do you have this? Do you have that? No, I don't have all that. No, I got some, some housing. But I know I need these things. And now we're going to actively first analyze the kind of services we need and then go seek them and go bring them on our site. Yes, you can have space. Yes, you can come sit with us, but you have to sort of start to serve this population more directly because we see them a lot and we do see what's going on there. So that's the sort of resident services, the long answer on resident services.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Pindell-Challis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to personally thank Ms. Wilborn for bringing to us a very stellar team. And it is obvious your background being in DC Public Housing as well as being the attorney, the counsel that you were there. It is obvious to us that, at least to me, that what you have here is really truly indicative of what we need here in the city of Annapolis. And we thank you all so very, very, very much for working so diligently and so hard in bringing to us a quality product for our residents. Thank you so much.
If I don't have any other questions there, let me take a moment to talk about the rest of the team so that you know sort of who the folks are that are now leading up the efforts. Francisco comes to us from Baltimore. He managed a number of their RAD conversions. So we happen to bump into him and say, hey, you know what? Annapolis is going through this and we really want the experience. I take the position, it's just me for right now, I'm trying to drum up some support, but my position is that, like I said, RAD is the real estate. It is how we're going to finance the real estate. We still have to talk about the people side and make sure we don't lose sight of it. It is a relief to know you will finance real estate in a sustainable way over time. That's a huge thing, don't get me wrong. But it also doesn't mean that everything will change for the people that live there, and we just have to make sure that that happens. So Francisco is all things property related. He's not only doing the development, but our maintenance will report into him so that he can help with maintenance strategies as well as our capital fund, so that we have a continuum of maintenance, capital improvements, redevelopment, and it's all sort of funneling up and having a strategy overall so that we know where any of the properties. So the question of, Robinwood, which isn't going to now have the funding to do the retrofitting, what can we do to help Robinwood, right? So we have sort of an overall strategy of redevelopment. And I'll ask Francisco if you want to say a few words.
I'm excited to be here. I've been coming to Annapolis I grew up in Northern Virginia, and my college career was in Annapolis. I always thought it was a great town, and I enjoy the fact that all the communities are very close to the center. It's part of the fabric of the city, and I hope to make an effort to reconnect it all together so we can all be good neighbors.
And my other director here with me today is Bridget McLaughlin. And as I indicated, she has a background in Washington, D.C., running programs for the homeless. So when we interviewed her, we said, well, I think you know something about people in difficult circumstances. How do you move them forward? That's really what my program should be, right? As I often say to folks, I got the one thing that the homeless crew is looking for. They look for housing. I got housing. I got the stability. I should bring stability in the housing. But then I should focus on how do you help people move themselves forward. What are the issues that they are confronting every day that's not allowing them? If I stabilize housing, if the housing is working, right, and we know that's there, and we lock that down, then how do you help people move forward in their own right? And so we looked at a lot of people, and a lot of people came from other public housing arenas, and we decided that we wanted to do something a little different and wanted to bring somebody from an area. She has a master's of social work, who really understood how to modify behaviors over time, what it takes. Are we making the right environments? Are we partnering with the right people to really challenge how we run public housing for residents? And so, Bridget, I don't know if you want to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. This is my third week, so I am really getting my feet wet. I am so excited to be here. I've worked in DC for a very long time, and having the opportunity to come to Annapolis to work with the public housing residents is something that I'm really looking forward to doing. I'm really looking forward to helping to empower families, to helping people reach a sustainability that they've never thought they could. I've seen it happen in DC, and I know it can be done. I don't feel that these residents need to be given up on. I really want to help them to move forward, and so I'm hopeful that I will have the opportunity to do that. So thank you.
So she will be housed at Robinwood. We will take one of our 4-bedroom units, and it will become our resident service area. It will be sitting in Robinwood so that people can readily see them every day. With her will be our family self-sufficiency coordinator and part-time our safety coordinator, so that we start to have our services out in the community and not at headquarters. We are hoping to adopt just a more resident-friendly approach, so people don't just hear from us when it's rent collection time and all the arguments about, you know, who's not doing what, but that we also approach them when we see things not going well. Suddenly, you've been performing and it's not now. We need to reach out and say, what's going on? Is there something that we can do? Can we refer you? Can we help your family? Can we help stabilize? Because many times, that first hiccup is what can really drag you all the way down. So if you kind of see it early and stop it. And we many times are in that position to see that. So I'm looking forward to working with our new senior management team. I have an additional director who's not here today, Tanya Diggs. She is the director of the housing program, so that's everything associated with admissions, public housing, housing choice vouchers, terminations, grievances, all of that will be under her umbrella, so that we can really start to deliver the various pieces of public housing in the professional manner that the city really does deserve.
Okay. Thank you so much for making our city better. We really appreciate all this.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is reports by committees.
Anyone like to give a report? Alderwoman Henson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee did meet on July 17th. We had a presentation from the acting health officer from Anne Arundel County, Ms. Frances Phillips. I did ask for the documents that she gave us to share them with everyone, and when I get them, I will. It was some very enlightening information on some of the statistics regarding overdosing in the city, on some other health matters concerning the city. Alderwoman Tierney, Alderman Payon, and myself did have the benefit of that. Alderwoman Pendle Charles and Alderman Savage were in attendance as well, and I do want to share that information. The health department is also open to acting in an advisory capacity with the city as it relates to us crafting legislation, voting on matters that have to do with human welfare. So we're really looking to explore more the human welfare end of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. We did also have 2 pieces of legislation before us. We did postpone those pieces of legislation. We look forward to getting additional information from the health officer so that it can help enlighten our decision-making on those. The next meeting of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee will, of course, not be until September. We will keep the council posted.
Thank you. Alderman Payon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Audit Committee at long last had its first meeting last week. We will be meeting again in these chambers on, don't get used to this, but August 27th, Monday, August 27th at 9 a.m., 8 a.m., excuse me. In our initial meeting, we did mostly housekeeping matters, but we also talked about an agenda for the year, a path to be followed, and we're optimistic, looking forward to getting down and getting our hands dirty a little bit with different parts of the city, helping departments do the best they can with the budget they have, going over methodology, and certainly auditing. Thank you. The public is invited to come to each and every meeting. I will try to see to it that the meeting dates and the agenda get on the city website. I got to tell you, it's a little easier said than done, but I think with a little bit of effort, we can do that, and we will do that. Thank you.
Alderman Pendle Charles. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So, Environmental Matters Committee, we did meet on July 18th, and the only thing I just want to highlight, our next meeting is September 19th, and with thanks to Alderwoman Henson's committee, when she had the health department, we were able to ask them about the proposed foam ban, and so that will be coming, in light of that information that we received at that committee, that ordinance will be coming back to the Environmental Matters and on, again, September 19th to talk about our options about next step. That ordinance is still alive even though the county has vetoed theirs. So I'll keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Monday, September the 17th at 6 p.m. at the John T. Chambers here in City Hall.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you. The Rules and City Government Committee met on the 23rd of July. We approved or gave favorable recommendations to the 5 appointments that came before us, and we'll hear those very shortly. And then we had extensive discussion on 014-18 development review process. We did come up with some amendments, but that legislation is going to be postponed until September. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, September 11th at 4 o'clock here in Council Chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Economic Matters Committee met on July 12th. The business before the committee were appointments for 5 individuals for 3 different boards, which we gave favorable recommendations to the 5 of them. I want to thank Mr. Will Rao and you, Mr. Mayor, for being great nominations here. We recommended Frida Widley to the Maritime Museum Advisory Board, Wilfred Scott to the Historic Preservation Commission, Carol Kelly to the Historic Preservation Commission, Dick Peterson to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, and Kia Baskerville to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board. Thank you.
Alderman Tierney?
I know you were waiting to hear it. The next meeting of the Transportation Committee will be September 13th at 6 p.m., where we will hopefully address adequate facilities after we get some supplemental information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
During comments by the general public, the public may speak on any item not scheduled for public hearing tonight. Legislation scheduled for public hearing is O-19-18, 2018 Zoning Code Updates and Amendments. We have one speaker signed up. Please come forward, Eric Evans.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Eric Evans, 38 Citygate Lane. I come tonight just to share some good news with you guys. On Thursday, I had the honor of meeting with McKee Foods and with the Downtown Annapolis Partnership, and we are working in partnership with City Public Works. We will be donating $20,000 to build out the bike master plan in downtown Annapolis to make biking safer for those that are coming to use proposed ride shares or just driving in from the community, whether they're coming to work or for social activity. This is on top of about $10,000 that the Arts District has raised to put in artistic bike racks that would be going throughout the Arts District. So I just wanted to kind of let you know some of the give back that the community is giving to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Would anyone else present like to speak? Please come forward at this time. Seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is an update from the mayor.
So, good evening. Just over 3 weeks ago, 5 people just doing their job as journalists in a local paper's newsroom were murdered. This tragedy has forever changed those 5 families, the survivors of the massacre, the entire newsroom families, our city, our state, our country, and indeed the entire world that is troubled by this attack on free press. And it has impacted me significantly and personally. Never did I imagine that as a mayor I would be dealing with the deadliest attack on press in the history of our country. What happened at the Capitol affected all of us in many different ways. Many of us know the victims personally. All of us understand the impact this paper has had on our town for more than 300 years. All of us knew this was an attack on the freedom of the press. And I will not stand by and let people forget the names of Wendy Winters, Rob Hyacin, Gerald Fishman, Rebecca Smith, and John McNamara. I went to each of the funerals, I met their families, I learned more about their beautiful lives. And many of the family members and reporters said to me, in fact, and said to the world in many different ways, please do not forget about them. Don't let their lives be forgotten. My urgency for this event coming up is from our conversations and interactions with the journalists of the Capital Gazette and the families. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Everyone processes grief and trauma in different ways. It's never too early and it's never too late to show your support for families. Several weeks ago, we announced that the city wanted to host a benefit concert to help these families and urge the protection of the First Amendment, freedom of the press. There's an outpouring of support, and our office endlessly fields requests from people asking how can they get involved and show support. Our corporate community has called, offering their financial assistance as well. We have to come together as a community to show our support and love for these families, for our local papers, journalists, and our first responders. I'm extremely proud to be mayor of such a compassionate city. There is healing power in music and free speech. That is the driving force behind this. This benefit concert will bring together our community while raising funds for these families and survivors, as well as recognizing the bravery of the first responders. The City of Annapolis should have an opportunity to express its support for the families, the newspaper staff, and protection of freedom of the press. This is how I emotionally came to where I am tonight. This is not a political statement. Elected officials are invited to attend, but they are not speaking. This is not about gun control. This is about supporting the families and honouring our first responders and protecting press freedom. For those who say it's too soon, there is a tradition of holding concerts to bring healing power through music and raise money for victims. There was a concert for 9/11 shortly after the deadliest attack on US soil. Just 10 days after the Haiti earthquake, there was a benefit to raise money for the 200,000 people that were killed. These kinds of concerts help people who were the victims, whether it's the families, the survivors, the free press. It helps them. This event will help heal. Tonight, we have on first reader a resolution to consider this benefit concert a City of Annapolis sponsored special event. It is my hope that our city will support this benefit concert for the Capital Gazette, support the defense of the freedom of the press, and recognize the bravery of our first responders, and to approve the city's sponsorship. Just as our city sponsors events like the Tug of War, the Eastport Parade of Lights, the Naval Academy, and many other Naval Academy concerts, and many others. I will end with my comments tonight with 3 quotes. Journalism can never be silent. That is its greatest virtue and its greatest fault. It must speak, and speak immediately, while the echoes of wonder, the claims of triumph, and the signs of horror are still in the air. That's Henry Anatole Grunwald, who I'd never heard of before. So the second one is, if your help ends at thoughts and prayers, I don't want them. What I want is action. Celine San Felice, Capital Reporter. The third one is, as a survivor of the Capital Gazette tragedy, I am sad to see some have concerns about the upcoming Annapolis Rising Press Freedom Concert. With memorials on Bestgate gone and life moving on, I appreciate the efforts to put on the show. Wish all supported it fully. I'm asking the City Council to come together and put the city on record as supporting the benefit for these families and for our newspaper. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney? Yes.
I thought that R3918 had been pulled for tonight.
It's on first.
I'm looking at
It was pulled on second reader, but first
It was
reader.
pulled on second reader, yeah.
Okay, the mayor will not ask that the rules be suspended in order to pass this legislation tonight.
The rules were needed to be suspended to pass it on second reader, so
There'd be the hopes that the council will pass on first reader with the plan to consider the question after the break in September, with actual expenses will be known then. So it's just being introduced tonight.
yeah, so that's what I'm asking you to support it on first reader. Thank you.
Thank you.
The third reader was Paul. The third quote was from Paul. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I might follow up.
Yep.
Before we take a vote on that, are we going to be briefed on what exactly is going on Saturday?
Sure.
Because nobody on this council I've talked to seems to frankly have much of an idea at all.
Okay, sure. That's all up for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar include appointments, AP-13-18, the appointment of Frida K. Wildy to the Maritime Advisory Board. AP-14-18, the appointment of Wilford Scott to the Historic Preservation Commission. AP-15-18, the appointment of Carol Kelly to the Historic Preservation Commission. AP-16-18, the appointment of Dick Peterson to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. AP-17-18, the appointment of Kia T. Baskerville to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. AP-18-18, the appointment of Anthony Spencer to the Arts in Public Places Commission. AP-19-18, the appointment of Alex Pline to the Planning Commission. AP-21-18, the appointment of Jeremy Browning to the Human Relations Commission. AP-22-18, the appointment of Michael Walsh to the Board of Appeals. AP-23-18, the appointment of John R. Butler to the Port Wardens. And AP-24-18, the appointment of Scott Anderson to the Port Wardens. On first reader, O-34-18, entitled Demolition by Neglect, referred to the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Rules and City Government Committees. Second readers, O-9-18, Sign Regulations, temporary signs. O-25-18, Exempt Service Position Updates. O-26-18, Legislative Procedure Updates. R-19-18, Nonprofit Vendors During Fall Boat Shows 2018, and R-32-18, Anne Arundel Medical Center Cardiac Surgery Program. And that concludes the consent calendar items.
Are there any objections to items on the consent calendar?
Second.
I think there is an adjustment, Shanika.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move that we remove from the consent calendar AP 20-18, the appointment of Michael Metzger to the Human Relations Commission. And I would ask that we also remove it from the agenda as well, and that the matter be re-referred to the appropriate committee.
So we will, what do we call it?
Mayor Buckley?
Okay. Aye.
I was just curious for the reason. I don't. No. Okay.
So we're going to revisit that one, so we'll leave that one off for now, and then there'll be some time on that one. So let's approve the consent calendar minus that one. So let's call the roll, please.
Sure. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Henson?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Consent calendar has been
Approved, right? That's on first, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with Ordinance O-19-18, 2018 Zoning Code Updates and Amendments. For the purpose of updating and amending the zoning code by eliminating the restriction on existing lot width or area for variance applications, removing the finished side out, in quotes, fence installation requirement, removing the retail and or office requirement for multifamily residential projects in the BCE zoning district, removing the sign permit application requirement outside of the historic district, extending the time period for displaying exempt temporary community, civic, or public interest signs from 60 to 90 days, permitting freestanding signs in certain zoning districts, removing the minimum lot width requirement for freestanding signs in certain zoning districts, removing the obsolete language, and matters generally relating to updating and amending the zoning code.
Okay, we have no one signed up at present to speak on O-19-18. Is there anybody that would like to come forward and speak?
Mr.
Alderman
Mayor,
Rodriguez?
I would like to, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but extend the public hearing for this if possible, if that's okay with my colleagues, because I do know that there are a few specific business owners and others that wanted to make it.
So you want to keep it open?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
I'd second that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I sent to all of my colleagues and you a email from a constituent. I wanted to make sure that got onto the record. Aye.
Okay, well, all have a motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Alderman Arnett, that was referring to the sign. The
Accepted
email.
into the record,
Okay.
a memorandum to the Annapolis City Council from the Planning Commission dated June 22nd, 2018. I declare the public hearing on O-19 open until September 20. Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is legislative actions on first reader, beginning with Resolution R-38-18, National Sailing Hall of Fame, for the purpose of expressing the support of the City Council in retaining the National Sailing Hall of Fame in the City of Annapolis.
Is there a motion? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Alderman Arnett?
Mr. Mayor, this body has been on record several times over the years in support of the Sailing Hall of Fame, and I don't see any reason for us to change our position at this point.
Okay. Okay. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7. Okay. Is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow passage of the resolution at the meeting of its introduction?
Second. So moved.
So moved?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just voiced my longstanding support for the Sailing Hall of Fame. I'm not sure that this meets the criteria for suspending the rules, in my mind at least. It's important, but I don't sense the time urgency for suspending the rules. I think we can certainly do this under the normal procedure and vote on second reader in September.
Alderman Rodriguez?
I'll take a stab at answering this to what I believe is the urgency is that the Newport City Council will be voting on ordinance to basically sell the space to the National Hall of Fame if they decide to go that route. So this is an important expression before that vote, is what I understand. That's my understanding.
Okay. So, Regina, will you explain to us, we will need everybody to vote on it?
Yeah, unanimous
So, can you
consent to
explain?
do He's asking why we need unanimous consent.
You're asking why we need a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Because in order to suspend the rules, it needs to be done by a unanimous. The rules may be suspended at any time for any purpose during a meeting by a unanimous vote of the members present. So, in order to suspend the rules under 2.16.150, you would need to have a unanimous vote to suspend the rules.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Tawney was here a moment ago and just stepped out, but if he's within hearing distance, maybe he could help us understand the urgency.
Okay, I will have
Or-
Brian. Oh, Mr. Muldoon, can you come forward, please?
There he is.
There we go. So we'd like you to explain the urgency for us voting on this tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, my name's Lee Tawney, Executive Director of the National Sailing Hall of Fame. We've requested this resolution, as Alderman Arnett indicated, because the council has supported the National Sailing Hall of Fame in the past. You may have all heard that Newport has talked about us going to that city. They are having a vote on Wednesday, the 25th, to send a proposal to the Board of Directors of the National Sailing Hall of Fame. We do not have a proposal at this moment, so it'd be very helpful to have this resolution passed. We also are talking with the Governor's office to continue to explore options to keep the National Sailing Hall of Fame here.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Thank you. Mr. Tawney, the National Sailing Hall of Fame has brought a value added, as far as I see it, as far as our school system is concerned. Can you kind of elaborate on what kinds of programs would be lost if you were to move north?
Well, as you helped us get underway, we've, for over the last 7 years, have worked with Anne Arundel County Public Schools to teach math and science through sailing, for which the students get academic credit. And in addition to that, 3 years ago, we started a program of teaching math and science teachers how to sail, so they can therefore then begin to do the programs in the classroom themselves. So that program would be lost. I've worked with Alderman Peter Charles as well to create an outreach program to the community. And we've now for three summers extended sailing opportunities for those people in the community who've never been on sailboats before. And just last weekend, we found 2 natural sailors in our program. So those 2 programs that are involved with the community would be lost, and we felt from the get-go that we have an obligation to do those. It's not just to be a Hall of Fame. We're on public property in the heart of Annapolis, and we felt an obligation to provide services to the community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what is the date? When is Newport voting on this?
They're voting on Wednesday, this Wednesday, and they're voting to send a proposal to us.
And when would you, what's the date of your next board meeting where you would be reviewing their proposal?
We would probably be looking at another 30 days to review that, 30 to 60 days, depending on what we get from the state as well.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if we need to suspend the rules or not. I mean, because I'm a bit hesitant to suspend the rules. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I just think I don't know. We've done that. Seems like frequently in the past, at least more frequently than we have in the past. I just want to make sure we reserve that for emergency situations, because it does tend to cut out the public from the process. But I do have a question. What's my other question? Have you? What's the status of the state Maryland money?
We have requested from the state we have a trigger point for which we would get a long-term lease, and that trigger point has been $9.5 million. We've asked the state to lower that trigger point to 5, for which we have 4 million, and have a commitment to do an additional 1 if the program stays in Annapolis. And speaking to your first question, I think it would be helpful, if I could say, to have the City Council of Annapolis on record prior to a vote by the City Council of Newport. That's the only reason we're making this request. It would be helpful because I think the perception is that we've left. And the reality is no decision has been taken to leave Annapolis. And all the press has indicated, we're going to Newport. No decision has been made.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, if we suspend the rules and pass this tonight, how will that action be communicated to Newport?
Through the press and through a statement from us.
So it's actually, is it going to be communicated to Newport, or is it going to be communicated to the board, your board?
Oh, well, communicated to everybody, to our board, to the press, and to Newport.
Because I tend to agree with Alderman Savage. We really should be doing this in extremis, and we're being asked to do this over and over again. I'm still trying to figure out the extremis. I certainly want to convey, and we have conveyed to the governor in the past, the desire to keep the Hall of Fame here. I think that it has a beautifully logical place to be, which is where it is right now. But I'm loath, and I'm trying to be balanced. If I don't think we should do it elsewhere, I think I need to be intellectually honest that we shouldn't do it for things that I personally like a lot. So again, I'm trying to hear those words that make it click that if we don't do this until September 10th, the following bad things will have happened to us in the interim.
I think by September 10th, we will know where the state stands, and hopefully, and where the board stands on Newport. I think collectively, the reason we made the request, we felt it would be just helpful to have a statement prior to the Newport board meeting.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Lee. I think this is almost like a territorial vote, if you will. At least I speak for myself in saying, yeah, I'd rather have it in Annapolis than in Newport, just for recognition, et cetera. But I think I owe it to my constituents to know that if that is successful, in the sense that you success is losing the vote in Newport, I guess. Are you self-funding? Are you going to be? Are you looking at? Can you give us any parameters on what you would be looking at? Are you looking at adaptive reuse of the house? Can you speak to any of that so there is some framework in what to expect if you stay?
Just to answer your first part, I think the city of Newport will vote to send a proposal. So I don't think there's any question right now, as far as we can see, that vote, that the mayor in Newport doesn't have that vote. So there will be a vote on Wednesday, and the vote most likely, unless something happens, will be to vote to send a proposal. So that's the answer to your first question. We, as I indicated, have $4 million in the bank, and we have a commitment to another $1 million, which we feel would get us moving on this project, which has taken a long time, and Alderman Arnett, who helped us get to where we are, can attest to that. In terms of what we would do with the property and the structure, We've already undertaken, at the request of the Maryland Historic Trust, as part of the agreement with the city and the state, a historic trust structure report. And that report is available to anyone, and Michael Dowling did that report for us, and it talks about possible opportunities to deal with adaptively reusing the structure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alderman Savage.
Comment. I think, I'm just thinking about this more, and I do see the strategic value in suspending the rules and passing this tonight. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow passage of the resolution at the meeting of its introduction?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay. We do a roll call on this? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. It has to be 100%.
Mayor Buckley?
Yes?
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Henson?
Aye.
All right, let's have it.
Now we need to do second reader.
I think they're here now.
Oh, you gotta finish the resolution first, second reader.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, sorry. Is there a motion to adopt R-38-18 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll on this one as well.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderwoman Henson?
Aye.
The resolution
Thank you.
passes. Now you can call them.
I don't think they're here. We were going to try to swear in 2 people on the Historic Preservation Commission, but I think that we have missed that window. Susie? Are they both gone? Yes. Okay, sorry. No worries. All right. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution R-39-18, City Co-Sponsored Benefit Concert Special Event. For the purpose of identifying the city co-sponsored special event, in quotes, Annapolis Rising, benefit for the Capital Gazette and for the Free Press, end of quote, to occur on July 28, 2018, and waiving certain related city fees for that event.
Is there a motion to adopt R-39-18 on first reader? Anybody?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Alderman Payon?
Mr. Mayor, how do we measure the reimbursement due for services from the city employees? I'm not talking about the overtime, but staff members that have been full-time on this for the last few weeks. A number of departments have had planners working on this for a long time. I note in the preliminary fiscal impact, doesn't appear to be any reference to that. Will we be reimbursed for employee time?
I think we could let the city manager weigh in on that.
My understanding is that the reimbursement is only for overtime, so any event we plan, including the 4th of July parade or those sorts of things, the staff time spent planning those, the staff time at the EOC, police and fire, parking, transportation, all the coordination None of that is considered in the costs that are reimbursed. It's only the overtime for the event itself.
But all of those have directly or indirectly a positive benefit for the city itself. This is a fundraiser, I would point out, albeit for a very worthy cause, but I'm concerned that we've spent hundreds and maybe even thousands of employee time working on this. I would note we just voted to raise the property tax something close to 20%. Certainly there must be some reimbursement involved for city employee time.
I would suggest that this event would have the same indirect positive impact as something like the 4th of July parade, where you have thousands of visitors downtown patronizing the restaurants, etc.
Well, they're just going to be on Calvert Street, aren't they?
I would suspect they're going to come downtown also. I guess they could come and stay on Calvert Street all day long and that's it, but they might very well go over to West Street. They might go downtown when it's over. They might go downtown while it's happening. They can come in and out of the event all day long, and it is an all-day-long event.
Do you know how long the streets will be closed? West Street, for example? I'm
West
assuming
Street
that's
is
going to
not
be
gonna-
closed from Church Circle probably down to Lafayette.
No, West Street is not going to be closed. The street's going to be, Calvert Street is going to be closed from West Street to Northwest Street. It's the only street closure.
Okay, and the stage is going to be at Weston Calvert?
Yeah, close to Weston Calvert.
You're going to have traffic driving right up to the back of the stage?
It'll be appropriately secured.
Okay. Will there be food served at this, do you know?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, do you want me to answer these questions or someone else more
I
involved
can
in that?
answer.
Or there will be food and beer trucks, yes.
This is what I mean by, we've been kept completely in the dark about this. I've got constituents who are, not physically, but basically through emails are yelling at me for details, and I've got to sit there and, because none of these details have been shared with the council. Can somebody please tell us what's going on?
I can give you a rundown, if you like. Yep. And
I would like. I'd
called
like
you.
every detail I can get. I can't even get a fair comment on, what the expenses are. The question I asked was in the paper, a couple of days ago with the article, and I'm no closer or very little closer to finding the answer to that than I was then.
I believe
it's a great cause, don't get me wrong, but there are many, many unanswered questions.
The fiscal impact note lays out the estimated expenses as we know them right now.
Well, and to tell you the truth, I think it's obviously somebody put in some time, and I'm not ungrateful for that, but I just don't think it's close to complete. I'm glad we're not voting on it tonight. It would be a much more difficult vote, but than a first reader vote. But come on, I just feel like I'm being asked to consider something that I don't know anything about. I understand there's a crush of time. Frankly, one of the questions I'm getting is, why is there a crush of time? Why do we have to have this on the 30th day? Why not on the 60th day? It starts selling tickets now. Why not? We've got major league entertainment. Good Charlotte they're much more likely to be performing at the Verizon Center or the Baltimore Arena than on Calvert Street in downtown Annapolis. I'm very grateful they're coming to town. Have the families been consulted about this? I don't know one way or the other. The one person I knew would probably be sitting there if she had any choice saying, hell yeah, good party, but is this really the way that our city wants to commemorate this horrible event? I can't answer that, and I can't answer what consideration was given for any of these things. Why haven't we hired a marketing company or an event planning company to do much of the work that the city employees are doing? They've worked really hard from what I can tell, and they're to be commended. And it's a great cause, I understand that, but I'm just sitting there, I've got to tell people that no, this is not going to be a partisan political event, even though all the speakers seem to be, well, I'm not comfortable saying that they won't end up being partisan when they get up and speak. I don't know what to say to my constituents. I don't know how to answer them when they come up with what are some very good questions. How do I explain that this isn't being just, you know, patched up and put together as quickly as possible when, hey, we could, you know, we could have done this 2 weeks from now and had more time, maybe even had it on the, I mean, there's a reason why the state wouldn't allow us to have it where they had it, or where we had planned on having it. Why not the city dock? Why not, you know, another location? I can't answer these questions. We had zero discussion about this. And I may be the only one speaking up now, but I am certainly not the only one on this council that has had many of the very same questions I'm putting forth right now.
And I appreciate that, Fred. Thank you. These are extenuating circumstances. I think these are things that you never think are going to happen in your city. So this is a process that none of us have had any experience with. And
under the circumstances, I'm kind of glad we have it. Yep. I mean, given what it's for. You're absolutely right, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm sorry.
So I can just say for me personally that I'm going to hold on to this. We are going to have this event 1 month from the actual massacre. And then the next thing I'll move on to is reaching out to other mayors in this country that have been affected by this sort of stuff. And you know, I've made a judgment call here. I'm sorry. I apologize to all of you that I haven't had a chance to reach out. It's a lot of things that we've been doing on the fly, but anybody that's worked on this project has been doing their jobs above and beyond that as well. So we haven't stopped working on all other things that you see in front of you. But I am going to apologize now for not communicating enough. I put calls in and didn't follow up if you didn't answer and things like that. That happens, you know. I'm willing to sit down with anybody that wants time tomorrow, anytime you want to sit down and go through it. There's a flyer for the event on top of should be at your desk there. There will be speakers, there will be music. This is a thing that we've done, Fred, because lots of people have reached out to us and said, what can we do? How can we help? How can we show support? And this is the vehicle that we've chosen. You know, for some people it's not the right thing, for others it is. And you know, how we've conducted ourselves as a city so far, I think, has been commendable, right? This is another extension of that. We'll see. But I believe a lot of people are going to come out and support this event. And I believe you have to take the opportunity when it is presented, and artists were presenting themselves to say that I could do this, and we took them up on it. Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. By way of more clarification, I've never thought to ask when reading the legislation, when it says co-sponsor, who are we co-sponsoring with?
I guess the other sponsors, a lot of people are putting up.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there
funds.
are other, I just, all right, so
Yeah.
that would be.
So we have,
I mean,
I guess the first people that reached out were MGM after the Vegas situation. They felt a need to come forward.
So we
There's
all.
an outpouring, a lot of people. And there'll be full list of that, and what's good about doing this on first reader now is that we will have the opportunity to know exactly what the costs are after the event and exactly what we raised. So.
Okay. So, and I think it's been the posture of the council to always vote on first reader unless there's something truly cataclysmic that you can't. So I plan to vote positively on this for first reader. I was looking down here on the flyer though. All along I've been focusing on the contributions going to support the families of the victims. But I see here also proceeds are going to first responders. What is that about?
So we are reaching out to different, to the unions, to the police, fire, first responders to see if there's something that we can contribute to in their causes as well, because lots of people have been affected by this event, so we will be reaching out to numerous organisations on this sort of front to show some love to the first responders as well. But I don't have exact breakdown
Okay.
of that now. Yeah.
So we'll get that. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how it all
Everything.
gets parceled out. All right, thank you.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you, Gavin. I think the key words in this is the city of Annapolis being a co-sponsor with emphasis on the word city and our democracy. I really listened to you and your position, and I feel like it's very unfortunate that we are in this position where it could be interpreted that our vote, if it was a no, is that we're not supporting the victims or their families, and that's a very unfair position. You had some quotes, and I also have a quote. Winston Churchill said that no one pretends that democracy is perfect, but in a democracy, if people are given the information and the objective, specifically in this case, our objective in healing collectively, they can be depended on to meet any crisis, as unfortunate as this is. And I believe the fact that we are getting subjective and somewhat offensive emails reflects the reaction to this haste and your personal decision, albeit sincere and heartfelt, understood, and I have to commend you how proud I was of seeing you on national television as our mourner in the mayoral capacity. But I just think this was a lost opportunity to set the right tone, because if we had set the right tone, again, we wouldn't have this feeling in the air that it was hastily done and all these other subjective opinions. That's why we have these rules. We have special event legislation, and we look at those parameters and decide the best way to do this, and that we didn't afford it that time, and again, it's all just very unfortunate, and I think that's all I can say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How many tickets do we expect to sell? I understand it'll probably be sold out, understandably so, but how many are we?
3,000 is the capacity of the space.
So we're looking at a $75,000 maximum contribution, plus anything that we get when we pass the proverbial hat at this, I presume. Are there any profits that are going to go to?
All the profits are going to go to the causes. So there's no.
And that's from merchants also?
Yeah, I mean, we have all the excess beer sales will go to the cause. All the, I think there's some merchandise crossover. There's some sharing that, but generally most of the stuff is going to the causes. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just in case anybody feels that I think it's not a worthy cause, by asking some questions, and I've got a lot more, but I'm not going to bore my colleagues with them. I've heard many more from constituents of mine, but I have in my hand a check for $500 that my wife and I have made out to the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County for their Victims Fund, which includes this. They've agreed to match dollar for dollar all contributions with regard to this horrendous incident, and they can certainly count me among their biggest supporters. I just got some issues with how we're going about doing it. Thank you, sir.
Alderwoman Henson.
May I inquire of the city attorney? When we were going to vote on the entire package tonight in advance of the concert, it kind of made sense to me. What is the legal significance of voting on of agreeing to be sponsors? What are we doing with that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, are you saying that the vote would be an agreement to be a sponsor, or what? I'm not sure if you could phrase your question a little bit differently. What is the legal issue that you're asking me to provide advice on?
The resolution does designate that the city shall be a co-sponsor. It makes several designations in the resolution.
Okay.
If the event can proceed absent the resolution, what's the legal significance of the resolution designating ourselves as co-sponsors?
Well, the resolution, I think, is, what we're seeking here, or what the resolution seeks, is to exempt certain special events, that being this one, from fees by resolution. And that's really what the nature of the resolution is, whether you're a sponsor or not. I mean, as I understand it, the city is the applicant for the permit for the event, and there's co-sponsors, as the mayor has mentioned. I don't know that there's significance to the fact that you're co-sponsoring, or the city's co-sponsoring or not co-sponsoring the event, except to the extent that they are part of the they are the applicant for this permit, and the city council may exempt certain special events from fees, and that's really what the nature of the resolution is.
So for the co-sponsorship designation, it doesn't need the vote of this group to be a co-sponsor, so long as the city submits its application for a permit, is given that permit, then this vote is not relevant?
I'm not saying that the vote is relevant or not relevant. I think that the circumstances are that you don't need a resolution for the event to occur, and necessarily for the city to have the event, or to be a co-sponsor of the event. What you need the resolution for is to vote to have the special event exempt from fees.
On the city's application, I want to make sure I understand our liability as well. On the city's application, are we the only person making the application for the permit? Is this I know that we say co-sponsor in the resolution, but is the application, and perhaps it's a question for someone else.
Right.
My
I
apologies.
think perhaps the chief of staff might be in a better position to answer that question, or the mayor.
You want to?
The application has the city, Annapolis Rising, and the Annapolis Arts District as the applicants.
Annapolis Rising is what legal entity is that?
It is not a legal entity at the moment. But it's a fund, really, designated for purposes of events. This one and perhaps others in the future.
So if someone wanted to make a claim, if there was an injury or something, the liability would fall to all three of those partners, or I don't understand the constitution of Annapolis Rising as a bearer of liability if they are an entity.
I can't answer that question, except I do know the city would be involved in that, if something happened like that.
And regarding the fees that are that we're asking to be waived, are the fees going to be paid, or what is the technical? How does that technically work if we waive them after they've incurred? Is it that the bill would be outstanding and then it would not be collectible if we waive it, or would they be paid and reimbursed, or how does that work?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I
Teresa
imagine that.
Teresa would know.
Okay. It seems like, well, go ahead, Teresa. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Thank you. So if it's a city-sponsored event, then it's a special event for which the city waives some or all of the fees, and the city council may exempt special events from fees by resolution, so that's what the resolution is intended to do. We will accumulate the costs of the event. If you all in September do not vote to waive the fees, we will assess the fees. The fees will have to be paid out of the proceeds from the concert, from ticket sales, sponsorships, etc., which will be money that would reimburse the city for its expenses, which would reduce the money available to go to the assistance of the victims or the first responders. And then if you don't pass it, I'm sorry, if you don't pass it, we will assess the fees. If you do pass it, we just don't assess any fees.
Who's collecting the money? Is there a 501c3 or is it a for-profit? Who actually holds the dollars and distributes the dollars?
The contributions are principally being held in the Annapolis Arts District 501c3 account. So that, and I want to be on record, as I think maybe the mayor already has been, it is our intent and plan to be absolutely transparent about any money that we receive, because our scheme here is to try to create an event that contributes as much as we can to the families, to the Capitol staff, and to the responders who also have effects from the event, the shooting. So we have worked very hard in trying to have parts of this contributed. I have to congratulate Fred for knowing Good Charlotte. And they are a very big deal. We have the advantage in our city of wonderful, different kinds of music, but wonderful music people who are sensitive and concerned about what happened here in the city of Annapolis and are therefore giving their time. And we've asked everybody, to the extent they can, to do this for free, because our purpose is a contribution. And so we have, not everybody is donating every dollar. I can't say that, but we're trying to have our costs for this event, the city's costs, as low as we can to get the money going to the accounts that you have listed there.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. Sorry. So the city is already a sponsor, even if this legislation goes one way or another?
We are listed as a sponsor on the application, yes.
So the material part of it is what to do with the fees associated. Is that a fair statement?
What the material part is, as the city attorney said, the costs. Yes.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to, first of all, just commend you on your effort to put this together, and staff's time. I think this is and can be a very important way for the community to express itself during this difficult time, and to try to support each other. And I was moved by your remarks, very well written. But I do want to, I'm glad that we are splitting up the vote, because I do want to try to get some more details. For example, again, like my colleague said from Ward 8, who are the co-sponsors, the other groups involved? You mentioned that they're going to be donating the profits to the cause, but the thing about the city is that we don't have profits per se, especially for these kind of events. These are all just operating costs. So it would help. I think I would certainly be a lot more comfortable with waiving the fees if I could get an estimate of the proceeds, to see if the fees would indeed make up a significant portion of that. If it's, because I'm guessing for a normal event, so for a normal event, they would get charged a fee that's based off of the overtime expenses and everything listed in the fiscal analysis?
That's correct.
Okay.
We've calculated the fees in the same way the fees are calculated for every event.
Okay, so they get charged that amount after the event, typically?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what other events have we, or do do this for routinely?
In FY18, some of the larger events for which the fees were waived or assessed, or both. What would you like to know?
Which ones were waived?
Were waived, okay. We waived 25,000, almost 26,000 for the Military Bowl and Parade. We waived 16,000 for New Year's Eve. We waived 34,000 for the Power Boat Show. We waived 36,700 for the Sailboat Show. We waived 22,000 for the 4th of July, which was the 2017 4th of July. And then there's some other smaller ones. Those are the big ones that we waived. So we adjusted $183,961 worth of fees in FY18.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
And city-sponsored events that were waived by Resolution 1217 are 4th of July Parade, Kunta Kinte Festival, MRE Tug of War, Grand Illumination, Memorial Day Parade, MLK Parade, New Year's Eve, and the Light Parade.
And that's that. And how many events do we have annually? On average, not the ballpark. It's fine.
This has 48 in fiscal year 18.
48 events, so maybe a dozen of those are waived. All right, thank you.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Yes.
21, Mr. Savage. I'm sorry, 21 that we waive fees on.
Okay, thank you.
Just as a little bit of background, we went through a very extensive process determining what would be our city-sponsored events and what would not be, and determined what savings those organizations could have if they were partners with us. So the ones that were listed that Ms. Sutherland mentioned were those that had been vetted by a community committee and made recommendations to the council. I suspect that was at least 2 administrations ago. So that's been a standing list. The only thing that was added, I believe, was the MLK Parade. So, and for the record, I'm in support of this. I think what would be very helpful, however, I'm glad it's been divided and that we're not going to take second and third reader tonight, but it will give you an opportunity to bring a financial report back to the full council so that everyone will be comfortable, including the community, because I'm sure you all are getting the same emails that I'm getting, questioning our due diligence of tax dollars. So a report coming forward to us before or during second read or whatever would be very helpful to show the community that the money has been spent as we've promised it would be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along the lines of Ms. Henson's questions a few moments ago, if we vote in September to collect the money, who do we collect it from? What organization are we working with? Is there a nonprofit that hasn't been brought up yet? Is there, I mean, the city doesn't collect money from itself last time I checked. God knows it collects it from everybody else, but I don't think we've taxed ourselves at this point. Who do we charge for this?
Most of the donations have been put into the Annapolis Arts District.
To what?
The Annapolis Arts District is the 501c3 we've been using to get it.
If I might ask, are they, I mean, there are a number of groups, at least one group in particular is offered to match money up to $1 million. Any reason why we're not putting it in with that group? They're not up to $1 million yet, only less than 700,000.
I don't have an answer for that.
So the Annapolis Arts District nonprofit is the one that, through which the money is coming in for the event, through which if there are payments to be made to a vendor or something like that, where those payments are being made, At the end of the day, what's left over will be donated to that very fund.
Community Foundation for Anne Arundel County?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we've all received quite a few emails today, yesterday regarding this, and what I did was I tried to look at all of them and compile kind of an email to everyone, and I'm going to read it right now. This went to several people. At this point, I will speak mostly from a very general point of view, then a clinical one, and later from a financial one. As always, thank you so very much for your thoughts and perspectives. I will not be there on Saturday. That is the actual day of my 39th wedding anniversary. This is a situation that we have never faced before, and we cannot necessarily follow what other jurisdictions might do under similar circumstances for at least two distinct reasons. Number one, our town is definitely different, and two, never before has there been such a horrific act perpetrated upon the members of our free press in our country. As I see it, a direct assault on our democracy. In my opinion, these actions went way beyond the romantic rejection and entered into the realm of what the press does or does not print, even about a romantic rejection. So whatever decisions are made here will be scrutinized. What it comes down to for me, everybody is right and nobody is wrong. For example, I would even think that if we asked a body of well-respected clinicians what we should do, they each would have different opinions and all based upon the correct analysis. So we will have to feel our way along when it comes to this. We don't want to feel like we are ignoring what happened, but then on the other hand, we don't want to be labeled insensitive this early from the date that this happened. For example, we can have a one-year anniversary event. Nothing precludes us from doing something later on. We can certainly start playing that even now, and certainly your financial concerns can be taken into account and addressed. As I see it, what our mayor ran on and the unprecedented votes that he received is really exactly in line with the decisions that he is making here. I don't believe that there's a right or wrong answer here. We do know that no one is doing anything that is without good intentions. As we all can agree, we can't put a price tag on a life, and absolutely no one is insinuating this. So we are truly walking a thin line in this situation. What I do believe is that whatever decisions are made in the final analysis, that the decisions will be respectful and respected. And I honestly believe that the financial part of this can certainly be worked out satisfactorily. We have a stellar city manager, CPA/auditor, and our new finance director is cut from the same cloth. And I have all of the full faith and confidence in their abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Sutherland, I was wondering if do you have any details on the breakout of police overtime versus the reimbursement to, I'm trying to get at how much this reimbursement to the Department of General Services is, because I feel like if we're waiving the fees, the state should be waiving the fees to us, right? So
I'll push it for that.
I mean, that's something I think that I'd really like to see before the next meeting.
Teresa? Pulling something up?
May I ask for clarification? We don't have a Department of General Services, so what?
It says
State Department of General Services officers will be assisting, and we, the city, will have to reimburse them for their costs. Because we don't have enough police officers to do this whole event, plus all the other things that are going on Saturday, plus providing our coverage outside of downtown.
Well, so is this traditionally how we conduct ourselves? Because in all of the other events, DGS has always been at the table along with state and MEMA and everybody else.
I tried to give you more detailed fiscal notes than you have gotten in the past. I believe in the past you probably got a fiscal note that said the cost is $32,000 and nobody broke out what was what. So I tried to just give you more of a breakout than you've gotten in the past. And I have the DGS versus our figure. $5,400 is DGS.
Well, what I was about to say was that we have a reciprocal agreement with those agencies. And Deputy Simmons is not here to correct me, but we don't send them a bill when we help them out, and they don't send us a bill when they help us out. So that's what I was gonna add, so we need to check on that.
I will check on that.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, who's handling the actual ticketing? Because I remember reading somewhere that it was Ramshead.
Ramshead, yeah. And they're
I-
waiving the fees
Okay,
on the.
I just wanted to ask that. Thanks.
And on the parking, the Naval Academy is waiving well, donating all the proceeds from the parking outside of a minimal fee they have to collect and putting it back to the fund.
Great. I was going to use this opportunity if they weren't to pressure them to do so.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Not really related to the issue at hand, but this event is happening, so is there a pre-planning meeting with Office of Emergency Management and law enforcement, so we know the logistics?
Very much so.
I mean, is it scheduled?
Yep.
Or, okay.
And I just wanted to address Alderwoman Henson's question about liability. And we do have a use agreement with Anne Arundel County in which they have asked us to incur any liability that arises from the incident. We've added language to make sure that's limited by the Local Government Tort Claims Act, and we've also we've also drafted language for all the vendors to sign that would indemnify the city from liability that arises from their acts or omissions, and also to give to any musicians in the event that they would indemnify us for any infringement on intellectual property rights in providing their music and requiring them to get any necessary authorizations to play the music they're playing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I might, in response to Ms. Finlayson's question, according to Chief Stokes, DGS always reimburses the city when the city helps DGS.
So, no one else does? Just DGS?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because you asked about DGS, that's the one he
Oh, that's one,
responded
okay.
to.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. He's watching from home, wherever he is.
All right. So everyone ready to take a vote on first reader? We have a second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Passes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is Ordinance O-2818, Arts and Entertainment District Tax Credit for the purpose of providing certain tax credit incentives to eligible persons and specifying the annual distribution of a real property tax credit incentive.
Is there a motion to adopt O-28-18 on second reader?
Second?
Proposed amendments, O-28-18, Finance Committee proposed amendments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So, the Finance Committee met on this legislation on the 18th of July. We were helped very much by the Office of Law and Mr. Gutwald, who I think may have escaped. The changes for the amendments are largely technical. It reassigns the code to this legislation to a different part of the code. It's in Title VI, and we had initially drafted it so that it was a new section, Title 6.25. It is being moved to an existing section, 6.04, but adding a section 6.04.260. So most of the amendments have to do with that reassignment. Amendment number 2 changes the title it eliminates 6.25 and moves it to the title Finance and Taxation generally. The most pertinent amendment, I believe, is number 3. The Finance Director, it is adding on page 2, line 8, a new B the Director of Finance shall promulgate rules and regulations to implement this section of the city code. All construction or renovation of eligible buildings for purposes of this real estate, or real property tax credit shall be properly documented and attested to on an application form approved by the Finance Director. The qualifying property owner shall apply for this real property tax credit each city fiscal year. This was in response to what dialogue we had during public testimony when I asked Mr. Welsh how he would apply and who he would apply to. The answer to that is now directed with this amendment, and the amendment directs to a new form which our attorney Ashley Leonard created, which is a four-page form that is quite explicit and quite detailed. It identifies the property, identifies the portion of the property that is relevant to the Arts District, and it enumerates a number of other pieces of information that the applicant would have to provide. It requires the applicant to go to the state assessments and get a reassessment of the property after their new additions have been put in place, and the state would come back and give a value of that new assessment. So somebody may invest $100,000 in a property, the state assessors can come back and say that increases your assessment $30,000. It's the $30,000 that the rebate would be based on. The legislation then goes to tell how the reimbursement schedule will be applied. The first 3 years are 100% reimbursement of the assessed amount after the property tax rate, which is currently 7.38 cents. The next 2 years it would be at 75%, the next two 50%, the next two 25%, and the last one would be 10%. So we moved from something which in my mind was not very clear as to how it would be implemented to something that I think our staff have now given us a very good and very clear process. So I would, and I know my colleagues on the Finance Committee subscribe to these 4 amendments, all of which were fairly technical in nature, except for Amendment 3, which does direct the promulgation of these rules and code. That was my short explanation.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend O-28-18 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Oh.
No, move to amend the Finance Committee recommendations.
Second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll move on to this. Is there a motion to amend O-28-18 on second reader?
Amendment?
So moved.
I thought we just, yes,
To
so
adopt.
moved.
Adopt, yeah.
So
Second.
moved.
Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Third reader? Is there a motion to adopt O-28-18 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes?
Okay. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderwoman Henson?
Aye.
Right. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, the agenda has been completed.
Is there anything else for good order? Alderwoman Finlayson? Sorry.
I just wanted to say the campaign, just a friendly reminder, the campaign fund reports you submitted, you have to submit to the state within 10 days for anybody who hasn't sent theirs to them already.
Thank you.
Could you say that again, please?
Alderwoman
I would
Finlayson?
just like to acknowledge that we have a birthday in the house today. A birthday
Oh, yeah.
boy in the house today,
All
man in
right.
the house. Today is Alderman Arnett's birthday.
All right, let's
I
sing
won't
happy
say which
birthday,
one,
Ross.
but-
Happy birthday to
To
you.
you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ross. Happy birthday to you. How old are you now?
And Alderwoman Shanika Hens's birthday is on Sunday.
All right,
Let's
let's
sing
sing
happy
happy birthday,
birthday to
Shanika. Happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy
birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear Shanika. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Alderman Savage.
I don't have another birthday, no. I just want to let the public know, and my colleagues, if you wanted to come, I'm having a town hall meeting. The summer town hall meeting for Ward 7 will be at the Eastport Annapolis Neck Library this Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m.
Happy
Wish me luck.
Okay, seeing no other items on the agenda, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
right,
I
sorry.
move that we adjourn.
All right, yes.
Second.
Second,
Look at
third.
this. Jeez. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
See you Saturday.